Meeting on the air first and third Sunday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
This is N5BB. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to start Skynet. So if you want to have a short conversation, please call your station within the next 5 minutes. Thank you very much. This is N5BB.
GeekNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC. W5FC.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin Skynet at 9 p.m. in about 1 minute? This is N5BB.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is N5BB, November 5 Bravo Bravo. My name is Bill, and I'll be your net control station for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy and space. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateur radio operators interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? A directed net. Please do not transmit without directions from net control. That would be myself in 5BB. Stations are reminded to identify at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. And I am logged into Echolink, and I can see that JJ and Kelly are already making comments over there. Very good. There will be time later here after other check-ins for Echolink check-ins. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and structured in several parts, and I will whiz through those very fast. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society, the discussion topic of the evening by the Net Control Station was up, space exploration and space history, Constellation of the Week, space launches of the week if we have time, recent astronomical discoveries, and visible satellite passengers over the next few days if we have time. Then, if we have time, astronomical questions and answers, followed by the 73 round. We intend to finish the net by about 10:30 p.m. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. You do not need to be a member of any club. So now let's start with short time check-ins. Any station that can't stay very long, please come right now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from, your location. This is N5BB, Skynet, net control. One more try. Do we have any short-time check-ins? Short-time check-ins. If so, please come down. Well, that was easy. Now let's go with general RF check-ins. We'll do Echolink a little bit later. So any general RF check-ins, please come down with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, Skynet net control.
Kilo 0 Foxtrot Echo Romeo.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray, Tom, Louisville.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
November Tango 5, Tango.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto.
Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jaden, your weather.
This is November 8, Whiskey Romeo. Romy, Grapevine.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, and Mesquite.
KF5, JHA, Chaz, and Mesquite. I wish I were in Garland.
Okay, let's pause there. There was one bad double, and I got no stations. Tony might be one of them, but I'm not really sure. It was such a bad double, it was impossible to tell. So everybody, please listen very carefully to see if I give your call sign. K0FER, would you give us your name and location, please?
Yes, thank you, sorry. Chris in Southeast Dallas, K0FER.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Just want to make sure everybody knows who you are. So I recognize K0FER, Chris, KE5ICX, Tom, KF5ZBL, Bill, WB5OZL, Brenda, AA5AH, Robert, KG5BZW, Jay, N8WWR, Romy, N5OF, Clay, KF5JHA, Chaz. I know there were some other stations because you doubled. So if you didn't hear your call sign, please try again. This is N5BB, Skynet.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Juliet, Dustin in Dallas.
Kilo, Golf 5, Oscar, Quebec Kilo, Dave in Garland.
Okay, let's pause. I recognize NT5TM. Hello, Tony. KF5UUJ. Hello, Justin. And KG5OQK. Dave. Excuse me. Do we have any other RF check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
And recognize KB9SOK, Sean. Good evening. One last try. Do we have any other RF check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control.
Whiskey Foxtrot, Delta Romeo Delta, sorry. WF5 DRD, Dennis and Flower Mound.
Okay, Dennis, please confirm Whiskey 5 Delta Romeo Delta. Is that correct?
Whiskey Foxtrot 5, Delta Romeo Delta.
Okay, I have it now. Whiskey Foxtrot 5, Delta Romeo Delta. We got it, Dennis. One last try. Any other RF check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB. Now let's switch over to Echolink. Let's see. N5IMS. JJ, are you on RF again for this net, or are you virtual? He's virtual. He's chat only tonight. He's fickle. He was on RF earlier this evening. We got you, JJ. Now, let's see. That's JJ in Carrollton. Now, let's see. Who else is there? Tony, NT5TM, has already checked in. Tom has already checked in. K5ICX, I've already checked in. KF5JHA, Chaz is there. Not in the city he'd like to be in, but he's still there. K5KTX, Kelly. Kelly, would you like to check in here on voice?
This is Kilo 5 Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in Quinlan.
Very good. Recognize K5KTX, Kelly in Quinlan. We already have Jay, and we have KG5OQK, Dave. So is there anyone I've missed on any mode that would like to check into Skynet, run weekly by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club? But you don't have to be a member to attend. Anybody would like to check into Skynet? One more call. Try. This is N5BB, net control. That station was too weak. I got a Delta and nothing else. If you're using a handheld radio, please try sticking the antenna up straight, walking outside. and try one more time. This is N5BB. Go ahead. Nothing heard. We will have times later in the net, many other times that you can try to check in, but that station was far too weak that time. You need more power, better location. If it's a handheld radio, standing up, putting the antenna up straight, moving around till the signal's better. Let's see. Next, general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be they could be ham, amateur radio related, astronomical, space, or anything of general interest to hams. Could be something local, could be something international. If so, please come now with your call sign only. General announcements. This is Skynet.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay. Does anyone else have any general announcements? This is N5BB, Net Control. Okay, go right ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Bill. This is a great net, but it's not our last net of the evening. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion net coming up at 10:30 tonight, plus or minus a few minutes. I just cannot keep the title of tonight's movie straight. You can find out more about it in the Afterglow Movies Facebook group. Sorry, not quite over my cold from last week. It boils down to the space monster versus the Laplanders. There's lots of skiing and lots of people from Lapland. I hope you'll enjoy discussing it with us tonight at about 10:30 on this repeater. We also do have a couple minutes coming up tomorrow, the meeting on the air on this repeater at 7 p.m., and the Races training net tomorrow at 8. The meeting on the air is open to all amateurs, but of course only Races appointees can check into tomorrow night's Races training net on this repeater at 8 p.m. Thank you very much for listening. This is Tony, NT5TM.
Okay, thanks, Tony. The movie will be Terror in the Midnight Sun, but I'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. It's a 1959 science fiction ski flick. Anyway, okay. Does anyone else have any announcements or news for the net? If so, please come now. This is N5BB Skynet. Next, let's talk about local amateur radio nets involving AMSAT, the Amateur Radio Satellite Group. Every Tuesday night at 8 p.m., unless it's a club meeting night on this repeater, there is a Dallas AMSAT Net East. That's 8 p.m. Tuesday evenings, every Tuesday except when we have a meeting for the Dallas Club. Then on Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m., there's a similar AMSAT net on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. There are a number of nets that are hosted here on this repeater. On Mondays, there's various things going on, different weeks. The first week of the month, it's Ham Fixings Net. The second week, it's Emergency Communications. The third week, more ham fixings. Got to get more food in. The fourth week of the month, it's Geek Net, geeky things. The fifth net of a week is a surprise net. there isn't always a fifth Monday, and we don't know what'll happen. If we told you, it wouldn't be a surprise. On Tuesdays, these are nets that are on this repeater I'm talking about now. The AMSAT Net East I talked about earlier. On Fridays, the CERT City Simulation Net starting at 8 p.m., everything about emergency communication. Lots of people get injured and hopefully get taken care of on that net. Saturday nights, we have TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. And then, of course, this net, Skynet, from 9 till about 10:30. And then the Afterglow net at 10:30 p.m. Then the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air is usually on the first and third Sundays of the month. There's also RACES training nets that occur on the first and third Sundays of most months. Those nets are at 7 p.m. for the meeting on the air and 8 p.m. for the RACES training net. That's the Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Service, if you're new to amateur radio. Also, every evening at 6:30 p.m., there is the National Training System training net on this repeater at 6:30 p.m. Usually finishes around 7 p.m. They move message traffic. These are things like telegrams, radiograms, for training purposes. Anybody is welcome to check on any of all of these nets, except on the RACES nets. You must be a RACES member, officially authorized RACES member to check in on those nets. Now, for tonight's Afterglow information. Tom, KE5ICX. Since I'm tired of talking, would you like to describe the Afterglow movie? This is N5BB.
Well, sure, Bill. I'll do exactly that. So, tonight's Afterglow info. The film's editor stared at the film's spools. Some addressed to him from the USA, some from Sweden, and still more from an Olympic snow skiing documentary from 1950. This one he found leveling the film editing table. He looked in disbelief, as his mission was a technical one. Take these three movie sources and turn them into a single SF movie people would love. This was the equivalent of taking the movie Heidi and turning it into a movie featuring America's contributions to modern industrialization. It was technically possible, but somewhat difficult to do. The editor looked at the three film sources. He realized the Heidi thing might actually be easier to execute than his current project. Join us for yet another unusual film, the sort of original version of Sci-Fi masterpiece, or Ski-Fi, I guess. It could be Terror in the Midnight Sun of 1959, or it might be Space Invasion of Lapland, or it might be Invasion of the Animal People, or it might be a combination of all of the above. Now, this movie has been re-edited 3 different times, so you'll have to follow the link, go to Afterglow Movie on the Facebook page, and then look for the link, because the other ones are there too. The one you want has Ski-Fi, SKI-FI. If you watch anything else, we're going to laugh and point at you because you're watching the wrong movie, even though it was done by the same director. That's it, Bill. This is KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. I have a comment. Now, you said that they were trying to turn it into a single SF movie. Now, I'll bet the people listening thought SF stood for science fiction. But no. In this case, it's snow fantasy. That's right. It's a snow fantasy movie. Lots of snow, lots of fantasy. Snow fantasy. No science fiction, really. Very unsciency. You don't see any You don't see the controls of a spacecraft. You don't see any spacesuits. You don't see... Well, we don't know exactly what you see, but it's not that. It's no fantasies. Okay. Next, do we have any additional check-ins to this fine net? This is Skynet. If you'd like a check-in, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, Net Control. We may have scared everybody away, Tom. Okay, next, it's time for Chaz, our very own Chaz, who would rather be in Garland. He would rather be in the Roman Forum with the laurel leaves around his neck, but he's not. Chaz, KF5JHA, tell us about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. This is N5BB, Skynet.
Well, thank you, Mr. Net Control. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, August the 26th at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Dallas, and it will also be held on Zoom. It's a hybrid, I guess. The featured speaker will be none other than Kelly Miller, our own K5KTX, the mayor of Kelly, Texas. And our topic will be about the task library. Kelly, would you like to tell us a little bit more about what the meeting will be about?
Chaz, this is K5KTX, and I am the librarian for the Texas Astronomical Society. And at the moment, we have just over 900 books in our collection. We have books, I think the oldest one goes all the way back to about 1867, all the way up to some pretty recent books. And they're very fascinating, all the way, especially the older ones, to take a look at and see how things have changed. But anyway, over the last year or so, year, 2 years, something like that, I have been working on a project where I took our entire collection and entered it onto a library app that's called Tiny Cat. And it's going to make it much easier for members to go in and look at what we have in our collection and request to check out those materials. And so that's what my talk is going to be about. So nothing really about black holes or gravitational waves or anything exciting like that. We're just going to learn about how to check out a book in the library. So if you are a TAS member, you have access to those 900-plus books to check out at any time. And so that will be my discussion. So back to you, Chaz. This is K5KTX.
Well, thank you, Kelly. I guess it'll be a page-turner of a meeting. And the Saturday night public observing sessions has begun again. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights so that there would be an opportunity for live reports from the TAS public observing sessions. Believe it or not, there's one going on tonight. I was hoping to be there in Garland. Does someone at that Garland Star Party like to give us a report? Come down with your call sign.
Kilo 5, Golf Lima Delta, Randy at the Garland Star Party.
Golf Lima Delta, please. Randy, come now with what's going on there. Tell us how many people, how many telescopes, what kind of things you're observing, and all sorts of details like that. Come now.
Well, this is my first star party, so I don't know what we're looking at besides the moon, but we've got 3 telescopes here, an 8-inch, a 6-inch, and a refractor. I think it's about a 3-incher, and about 50 people. It's a pretty good turnout. K5GLD.
Thanks so much. You're probably going to be able to see the planet Saturn sometime in the next few minutes as well as some star clusters Yeah, I'm not sure if you'll get the ring nebula. Those are kind of things that are kind of hard to do inside the city, but you'll be able to see the moon and all sorts of different things on the moon. So thank you so much, Randy. I appreciate that. All right, so I was hoping to be there, but I had delays, so that didn't work out for me. Let's see now. If you wanted to get more details about the Texas Astronomical Society, go to their website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and the public observing sessions. And this is KF5JHA, sending it back to our net control bill. Oh, did you like that, Kelly, when I said it was a page-turner of a meeting that's coming up?
I'm assuming that's an inside joke, somebody whose name is P-A-I-G-E or something. Anyway, this is N5BB, net control for Skynet. Randy, K5GLD, I will check you in at the Garland Star Party. Good evening, Randy. Do we have anybody else that would like to check into Skynet? If so, come now. This is N5BB.
WD5 BTX. Whiskey Delta 5 Acre Papa X-ray.
Okay, Whiskey Delta 5 Bravo Papa X-ray. Please give us your name and location. Okay, that's okay, Bobby. I got it from Echolink. This is Bobby. That's Bobby in Wills Point. Do we have anybody else that would like to check into Skynet? If so, please come down. Okay. Next, unfortunately, you're going to have to listen to me talking for the next two segments. I apologize. That's just the way it works out. I'm going to talk about the National Space Society. National Space Society is a group of space enthusiasts that's worldwide. Most of them are in the United States. And there are several chapters in Texas. There's 4 very active chapters in Texas, and I believe there's a new chapter in San Antonio. So lots going on. Here in North Texas, we have an extremely active chapter, and this chapter has won several awards for the best chapter of the National Space Society, including this year, 2022. We won that award. I happen to be the membership director of the local chapter. If you want to find out more about it, the National Space Society or local chapter, you can send me an email to space@byrom.net. That's BYROM.net. Or my amateur radio email address, N5BB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, @ARRL.net. The big news is the International Space Development Forum, ISDF, in 2023 will be held in Frisco on the north side of the DFW Metroplex. This is going to be in late May 2023. The initial website has just gone up in the last week or so. Go to isdc2023.nss.org. That is isdc2023.nss.org. So I'm describing this, it's the International Space Development Forum. You must wonder what happens there. Well, they're talking about things where are human developments in space. This includes International Space Station. It includes things involving astronomic telescopes and other space probes. It includes space hotels that are being worked on. It includes visitors to space that go up and just are in space for a couple of minutes and come right back down again. Or visitors to space that go up to something in orbit that stay up there for a day to maybe several weeks. It includes things going on with humans on the Earth and with Mars, both space probes and humans going there. So that's what's going on, and there's a lot of very interesting things going on these days in space, including quite a few companies in Texas, including launch facilities in Texas and rocket test facilities in Texas, and companies developing rockets and lunar missions in Texas. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So, if you'd like to go to the International Space Development Forum, you get a good discount for various things you might want to sign up for if you're a National Space Society member. So you need to sign up in advance for the National Space Society. So if you want to go to the International Space Development Conference in May, late May, Memorial Day weekend of 2023, you can get all the discounts. So we also have local meetings of our local chapter. This is N5BB, Net Control of Skynet. Our local North Texas chapter National Space Society meetings are on Sunday afternoons, the second Sunday of the month. So, our August meeting is going to be Sunday afternoon, August the 14th, starting at 3:30 p.m. So that's not tomorrow, it's a week from tomorrow. The location is Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving at the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road. The topic is to be determined. I don't have that information yet. You can look at our website, NSSOFNT, that stands for National Space Society of North Texas, NSSOFNT.org. We also have a Facebook page. If you're in Facebook, type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box, and you'll find us. We also have some limited activities on other social media. So before I continue, do we have any questions about the National Space Society or any late check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet, Net Control.
W5BLT, Bill, Garland, late check-in. W5, bacon, lettuce, tomato.
Very good, Bill. W5BLT. I forgot what city you're in, Bill.
Garland.
I think you said it and I just missed it. Gotcha, Bill. Okay. Any more check-ins or questions about National Space Society? Come now. Okay, this is N5BB, Skynet, run by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club every week. Now, we have the discussion topic for the evening. The name is A New Private Moon Race Kicks Off Soon. Commercial spacecraft are vying to land on the lunar surface. But can they jumpstart a new space economy? This article is by Rebecca Boyle and was from Scientific American, published about August the 1st. And there is a public version that anybody can read if you sign up for free access. But you can look for it by looking for the string, a new private moon race kicks off soon. That's a new private moon race kicks off soon. And you should be able to find that link. And Tom inserted something else here. I have no idea what he inserted. Let me see if I can see it here. I don't know how that got inserted. That looks like a spam. Tom, what happened there? Oh, I see. That's the you included the link to the this person. Okay, never mind. Or maybe I did and I forgot it. Okay, one day last December, John Walker Moosbrugger, that's Moosbrugger, he's a real person, a 25-year-old project manager for the lunar robotics startup Astrobotic, sat in front of the company's clean room and watched as an instrument older than him was attached to a moonlander. The vehicle, called Peregrine, was a four-legged, foil-wrapped canister as big as a hot tub. The instrument, surface and exosphere alterations by landers, or SEAL, was a shoebox-size sensor designed to study how a spacecraft's landing disturbs moon dust. Peregrine is scheduled to launch later this year, and is just one of many missions that private companies are scrambling to send up after years of preparation. Since its founding in 2007 as a scrappy competitor for the now defunct Google Lunar X Prize, Astrobotic had been working on its lander and signing deals with companies that wanted to put instruments on it, planning for a launch eventually. But in 2018, NASA came calling with a funding scheme that would turn Astrobotic into one of several moon ferries by the middle of this decade. Since then, Walker has been readying payloads like SEAL. All of a sudden, in late October, NASA representatives started showing up, he said. Everything got very real. Sometime in the next 4 or 5 months, the first American moon missions in half a century will make a return to Earth's satellite. The arrivals won't be human, at least not yet, and they won't even be government-built. The coming lunar fleet will consist of private spacecraft carrying science experiments and other cargo for paying customers, including NASA. Astrobotic's Peregrine lander is due to ride on United Launch Alliance's new Vulcan Centaur rocket, scheduled to make its inaugural voyage before the end of 2022. Cross your fingers. Competing lunar startup Intuitive Machines is set to launch its lunar lander, Nova C, on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket also by the end of this year. That's right, a dozen more firms are expected to follow in the next 6 years, carrying cargo that ranges from a magnetometer and supplies for a future lunar base camp to small amounts of cremated human remains. This is N5BB, Skynet. These will be just the latest first in a gradual ramping up of the commercial space economy. SpaceX launched its first rocket in 2006, and since 2012, it and other private companies, such as Northrop Grumman, have been flying cargo to the International Space Station, and more lately, human crew. In 2021, the long-delayed era of regular private space tourism arrived as billionaires and celebrity customers started riding rockets in the near-Earth space. This is N5BB, Skynet. But going to the moon is a much taller order. Rockets that can reach the moon must burn more fuel than normal launches to escape Earth's orbit and enter a lunar trajectory. And the journey takes about 3 days, as opposed to a few minutes to reach Earth orbit. Although companies such as SpaceX have plans for crewed ships to the moon, none have made it past the prototype phase. So for now, the new moon race is being pioneered by small companies, such as Astrobotic. NASA has not gotten out of the spacecraft business. Its Artemis program, a sister to the Apollo missions, aims to return humans to the lunar surface by 2025. That's right, that's 3 years from now. If you believe that. That's the date, though. The agency has been working on its own new moon rocket, the Space Launch System, SLS, since 2011. And scientists still plan new missions under its planetary exploration programs. But outsourcing these smaller near-term missions to industry is part of NASA's modern strategy of paying private companies to take on some of the load. NASA officials say a commercial lunar market will increase competition, drive down prices, and ensure people keep coming back to the moon, regardless of who occupies the White House. For their part, the companies hope that their NASA-subsidized cargo deliveries will jumpstart a new economic boom, the way the transcontinental railroads spurred Western development in 19th century America. This time, the rush would be for moon metals, water, and helium, materials that could become precious if rockets were to start launching out into the solar system from a lunar base station. In the meantime, science missions that have been lingering for years or otherwise had little chance of reaching space are poised to make it to the moon. The SEAL, that's S-E-A-L instrument, for example, is a spare copy of one built in 1996 for a different mission. It didn't fly then, but now, thanks to this private-public moon rush, it should get its chance. This is N5BB Skynet. Lunar scientists are watching this activity with a mixture of skepticism and hope. I'm still pretty early in my career, and this is the second or third time I've been told we're going back to the moon, since Angela Stickle, a planetary scientist at Johns Hopkins University's Applied Physics Laboratory. But I think it's real this time. The launches are on the books, they've been paid for, and that's something we've never had before. Of course, sustainability of any private enterprise depends on making money, and the prospects for a gold rush on the moon are still speculative. Is there really a lasting market for commercial moonlanders? This depends on who you ask and of what the new fleet of robots is able to pull off. So, normally the acronym COTS in government programs means for commercial off the shelf, but it also means something else for NASA. Private moon missions are arguably the inevitable next step in a process that NASA set in motion 17 years ago with the creation of the Commercial Orbital Transportation Services, COTS program. COTS was NASA's plan to pay private companies to develop ships that could fly to the space station after the retirement of the space shuttles. NASA spent $500 million over 5 years to help SpaceX and Orbital Sciences develop new rockets and cargo ships. The program was a success, leading to new reusable launchers and vehicles that reliably bring supplies to the space station. SpaceX has since completed 156 launches of Falcon 9 rockets developed with NASA seed money. And in 2020, the company began flying human astronauts to the station also. I'm going to skip over some of these paragraphs because it's a long article. They're talking about Google and the X Prize Foundation, which ended without a winner. It was just too difficult back then. But there was a company in Israel called Space Roman numeral 2. And they made it to the moon, but they had an unplanned crash landing in April 2019. But several other companies built lunar landing prototypes. This includes Astrobotic, another outfit called Moon Express, and even smaller firms such as Microspace. After the competition ended, many of these companies continued working on their landers, rovers, and instruments. In Astrobotic's case, even lining up customers for eventual trips. This is N5BB Skynet. Now for another acronym, CLPS. Behind these companies is the success of COTS. National created the $2.6 billion Commercial Lunar Payload Services, CLPS. That's Commercial Lunar Payload Services. This program was created in 2018, arguing that a high-risk, high-reward scheme would enable more science for NASA's dollar while encouraging a fledgling lunar marketplace to take off. Under CLPS, usually called CLIPS, NASA pays private companies to build landers, rovers, and other instruments and to carry science experiments on them. This time, the odds were probably better than in 2007. Lunar technology was more advanced. There are many more rockets capable of making the trip to the moon. This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. So talking about Thomas Zurbuchen at NASA. He was able to secure the $2.6 billion because of Trump's moon ambitions and because of Americans' fear of China's rise in space. In December 2020, a Chinese lander and rover arrived at the moon's south pole, collecting samples that were later returned to Earth. We have every reason to believe that we have a very aggressive competitor in the Chinese going back to the moon with takonauts. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said in November 2021, referring to Chinese astronauts. It's the position of NASA, and I believe the United States government, we want to be there first. Suddenly, lunar X Prize competitors such as Astrobotic were back in the game, carrying the fire for American space interest. So, there's now 7 American lunar lander contracts in place. 7. Crazy change. So, NASA missions typically fall into one of 3 classes. Flagship missions, such as the Mars rovers, or the James Webb Space Telescope, take up most of the money and most of the attention. They're usually decades-long, multi-billion-dollar projects run by teams of scientists and engineers from across the space agency and university partners. Missions that are slightly smaller fall into a class called New Frontiers, and they are capped at $850 million. The Discovery missions are the leanest, with a cost cap of $450 million. Launching any of these missions requires years of planning and preparation, and not every mission is chosen. Scientists may try for a good portion of their career before landing a Discovery mission or getting an instrument on a New Frontier spacecraft. This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. The CLIPS program, that's the commercial lunar program, is different. A single commercial lander might carry a dozen payloads. They have nothing to do with one another. Scientists who would otherwise spend years preparing a Discovery mission proposal could instead submit a simple science instrument for a CLIPS mission, meaning faster scientific return for less money. You don't have to spend 15 years building a spacecraft when you could do it in 2. As of April 2022, CLIPS had awarded contracts for 7 deliveries from 4 companies: Astrobotic, Intuitive Machines, Firefly Aerospace, and Maston Space Systems. Astrobotic's Peregrine and 2 Intuitive Machines Nova C landers are up first, scheduled to launch in late 2022. That's this year. We went from 50 years of nothing going to the moon to 7 deliveries over the next 3.5 years. Chris Colbert, who manages the CLIPS program at the NASA Johnson Space Center, said at a panel discussion in November 2021. So in this article, there is a drawing of the Firefly Aerospace Blue Ghost spacecraft. That'll be one of the first ones. It won't be in 2022, but it'll coming up soon. Firefly Aerospace, by the way, is in a suburb of Austin. And they've been working very hard on their various launchers and their the Blue Ghost lunar lander. Astrobotic's manifest includes items from the Mexican Space Agency, which is launching the first lunar instruments from Latin America. A Japanese company called Astroscale sending a time capsule of messengers from children around the world, and 2 firms promising to fly cremated human remains to the lunar surface on behalf of family members who want a celestial send-off for their loved ones. Yes, if you pass away, you can have your remains sent to the moon. Ooh. Anybody can, if you're done to the near side, you can tell your descendants can just look up and see the moon, and they can say, Great-grandpappy is up there in 5BB. Okay, I'm going to skip a lot of this because it's a very long article. There's drills. There's all kinds of things going up. There's Lunar Vertex will investigate the magnetic anomaly in a region called Reiner Gamma on the moon. And instead of being a $450 million spacecraft, it's flying for $30 million as one of the handful of instruments on the Intuitive Machines lander. Let's see. Again, I'm skipping a lot of this because I just want to talk about the concept. They're also going to look for lunar water. And most investors say there's money to be made on the moon long before it becomes a mining outpost. If that was the whole story, mining, then I'd be very nervous, said Chaz Anderson, managing partner at venture capital firm Space Capital, which invested in Astrobotic in 2016. He tracks investment in space-related enterprise and says that $258 billion has been poured into 1,688 such companies since 2013. Evidence that venture capitalists see ample opportunity beyond the bonds of Earth. That's really amazing, isn't it? He says this wave of experiments could lead to a profitable cycle, which the first instruments make promising finds, leading to more questions, ultimately to new interest from prospectors. The CLIPS program is a very elegant way of simulating a stimulating a market, stimulating multiple companies in a market. Anyway, this article continues, and I'm not going to read all the rest of it. Whereas Apollo was a demonstration of American brain power and geopolitical might, these new missions, half a century later, will showcase the country's present version of government-subsidized capitalism, ultimately sharing the control and the credit with entrepreneurs. Scientists who just want to understand more about Earth's companion world should get their answers no matter who launches the ships. The moon, silent and foreboding as ever, will not discriminate. And quickly, I just wanted to comment on the one I mentioned from Texas, Firefly Aerospace from near Austin, the Blue Coast lander. This is in 5BB. It's named after the rare blue ghost firefly. And they have a contract, Eclipse contract, worth $93.3 million for deliver a suite of 10 science investigations and top technology demonstrations to the moon next year. That's right, 2023, although I think it's slipped until 2024 now. The payloads expect to total 94 kilograms, 207 pounds. This includes the regolith adherence characterization, which determines how lunar regolith sticks to a wide range of materials exposed to the moon environment during landing in lunar. How does moon dust stick to materials? The next generation lunar retroreflectors serve as a target for lasers on Earth. Remember, the Apollo astronauts left some, but now next generation ones. The Lunar Environment Heliospheric X-ray Imager, LEX, LEXI, which will capture images of the interaction of Earth's magnetosphere with the flow of charged particles from the sun, called the solar wind. The reconfigurable radiation-tolerant computer system, which aims to demonstrate a radiation-tolerant computing technology. Due to the moon's lack of atmosphere and magnetic field, radiation from the sun will be a challenge for electronics. This investigation will also characterize the radiation effects on the lunar surface. The Lunar Magnetotelluric Sounder, LMS, which is designed to characterize the structure and composition of the moon's mantle by studying electric and magnetic fields. It's going to make use of a flight spare magnetometer, originally made for the MAVEN spacecraft currently orbiting Mars. Now they're going to send the spare one to the moon. The Lunar Instrumentation for Subsurface Thermal Exploration with Rapidity, LISTER, which is designed to measure heat flow from the interior of the moon. The Lunar Planet Vac, which is designed to acquire lunar regolith from the surface and transfer it to other instruments that would analyze the material or put it in a container that another spacecraft could return to Earth. The stereo cameras for lunar plume surface studies, SCALPS 1.1, which will capture video and still images of the area under the lander from when the engine plume first disturbs the lunar surface through engine shutdown. Long focal length cameras will determine the pre-landing surface topography. Photogrammetry will be used to reconstruct the changing surface during landing. Understanding the physics of rocket exhaust on the regolith and the displacement of dust, gravel, and rocks is critical to understanding how to best avoid kicking up surface materials during a terminal landing phase of flights and landing on the moon and other celestial bodies. I got two more of these. Isn't this amazing? The electrodynamic dust shield, which will generate a non-uniform electric field using varying high voltage on multiple electrodes. This traveling field, in turn, carries away the particles and has the potential applications in thermal radiators, spacesuit fabrics, visors, camera lenses, solar panels, and many other technologies. And the Lunar GNSS receiver experiment, which is based on GPS kind of technology. This will continue to extend the range of GPS signals, and if successful, will be the first to discern GPS signals at lunar distances. These are all supposed to fly in the Blue Ghost lunar lander to Mare Crisium for a 2-week mission. And they're going to use the Falcon X as the Firefly rocket that they currently have doesn't have their performance or payload volume, and their blue launch, their beta launch vehicle isn't ready yet. So they think that this launch of the lander will occur in 2024. I find this utterly amazing. That's why it's this long. That's all I got. This is N5BB Skynet. Do we have any late check-ins or questions about these commercial lunar programs? This is N5BB.
Kilo Foxtrot, Lima, low power, location, Stargazer Star Party.
Okay, please confirm Kilo Foxtrot 5, Lima. If that's correct, tell me your name, please.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa, Lima, Huey, Steven, Stargazer, Star Party.
We got it, Huey. You're a little bit noisy. That's why I missed the P. KFI PLL. We got it. Hope the Stargazers are having fun. Do we have any other check-ins or questions? This is N5BB Skynet.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot.
And NV5F. I know that's Virginia and Fort Worth. Hello, Virginia. Any other check-ins to Skynet or questions? N5BB.
K0FER question.
Yes, K0FER. Go ahead, Chris.
I don't know if it was you or Tony or somebody else, but a few nights ago there was a space station contact, and they saw something tracking across the sky, and they weren't sure what it was. I wonder if they got to the end of that mystery back in that.
Okay. Well, that's not about this section of the net, but I'll throw that out there. Tony, NT510, did you figure out what it was? Was it an airplane or something else?
No, I spent a very frustrating hour in Stellarium, turning on more and more satellites, and I could not figure out what it was. It was something in probably a polar orbit, or something 70, 80 degrees inclination or higher. It appeared to be moving the opposite way from the space station. It got very bright. It was not blinking. It was not an airplane. I'm really kind of wondering if it was a glint or something off of something that was not normally visible, a defunct satellite or rocket stage of some kind. But no, I did not figure it out, but it was pretty. NT5TM.
Okay. Are any of the swarms of the communication satellites, the Starlinks, are any of them in orbits that might have contributed to what you saw?
I don't know. I don't have access to an exhaustive catalog. I really only have Heavens Above and what I can turn on in Stellarium, and my Stellarium skills are not that high. So for now, it's still a mystery, but I took a lot of notes so that I can come back to it, and if I do figure it out, I will not only say what it was, but what my technique was, so others can use it on future ISS passes. Because it's not the first time that's happened to me. When I've seen something else go past when I've been watching the ISS carefully. Because if the lighting conditions in LEO are good for the ISS, they're good for other things nearby too. NT5TM.
Okay, very good. Of course, the other things could be, 50 miles closer or 200 miles further away. And of course, it could have been something recently launched that isn't yet in those catalogs. In fact, things like Starlink and some other satellites are initially launched in low orbits, and then within a couple of weeks are moved up to higher orbits. So they're not in there; they're just in a temporary orbit. So it could have been something like that. Who knows? Space is getting pretty busy, isn't it? Okay, do we have any other check-ins or comments before we continue the net? This is N5BB, Skynet.
KF5, HA, recheck.
Go ahead, Chaz. Do you have any guesses?
I used to use a database of some military satellites that are not in heavens above. And that could be one of the explanations. Could have been a military satellite. KF5, JHA.
Okay, somebody's linking something. Please turn off the link. It's got feedback. This is N5BB. Whoever's got the link, please turn it off. Please turn off your linking experiment. This happened earlier before the net. It just causes grief. You're covering signals up. Please turn it off. This is N5BB, Skynet, net control. Okay, hopefully that's gone. One more try. Are there any other check-ins or comments before we continue the net? This is N5BB, Skynet. Yes, it's time for What's Up. This is N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. I hope I'm coming through okay. Oh, I'm hearing myself over on Echolink. Okay, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree's in astrophysics, and I work at the astrophysics labs and geology labs and environmental science labs at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we do call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Slidemaster, if you're looking at the video version, or Slidemaster Tom, please put it on slide number 2. On August the 5th, the moon was at its first quarter phase. That was yesterday. The current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. On August the 10th, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth, at a distance of 359,828 kilometers. On August the 11th, the moon will be full. On August the 19th, the moon's phase will be third quarter. On August the 22nd, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth, at a distance of 405,418 kilometers. Slidemaster, slide number 3, please. On August the 11th, Saturn and the moon will be in conjunction from sunrise that evening until sunrise the next morning, because basically the moon and Saturn will be rising when the sun sets and will be setting when the sun rises. So that'll be an interesting sight to see. Slidemaster, slide number 4. The Perseid meteor shower peaks in just a couple of weeks. This year, the Perseids peak on the night of 11th and 12th, ones that I just talked about. Unfortunately, the moon is just a few hours away from being full during the peak, but you can even see some of those meteors in the sky right now. This annual meteor shower is one of the major meteor showers of the year. It can be seen mainly from the northern hemisphere, but most of the Earth's population lives in the northern hemisphere. And with this being the warm summertime for the northern hemisphere, it's become the most famous and most widely observed meteor shower. Now, usually the best time to see meteors is after midnight and before morning twilight, because this is the side of the Earth that is running into the leftover clouds of debris from comets and asteroids. If the moon isn't interfering with the meteor shower, it does this year, then you could see maybe one meteor about every minute during the Perseid meteor shower. Now, years ago, I lived in the Seattle area and drove up to the Cascade Mountains into a logging road to watch the Perseids. The hour just before dawn, I observed 90 meteors in just an hour. That's an average of about one meteor every 45 seconds. That was an awesome time to be able to look at them. You need to be really far away from the city lights. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 5, please. On August the 14th, the moon and Jupiter will be in conjunction in the early morning sky. Slide Master, slide number 6. On the early mornings of August the 17th and 18th, the planet Venus and M44, which is also known as the Beehive Cluster, will be in conjunction. Now, you really need a pair of binoculars so you can see both of them. This will be really interesting to see. Slide Master, slide number 7. On August the 19th in the early morning sky, the moon, the planet Mars, and M45, which is the Pleiades star cluster, are in conjunction. Once again, using a pair of binoculars will help in observing this conjunction. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting, once again, will be held on Friday, August the 26th. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. and held in person at the University of Dallas and also held on Zoom, too. The featured speaker will be Kelly Miller. We've already talked about the mayor of Kelly, Texas a few minutes ago, our own K5KTX. She'll be talking about the TAS Library. And Saturday night public observing sessions have already begun. Thank you, Huey. He's the coordinator of that. We thank you very much for doing that. I'm sorry I wasn't there tonight. So, if you want to find out more information about the public observing sessions or the meetings of the Texas Astronomical Society, go to their website, texasastro.org. Now, number 9, please, on the slide list. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information I've just given you? Or if you have just a general astronomy question, if you do, come now with your call sign. Wow, that was a lot of beeps with nothing there. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 10. So as the moon waned at the end of July, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next time, keep looking up so you know what's up. Bill, our net control, let me suggest something. We're going to postpone our Miss Caroline's Constellation of the Week until next week, because I'm looking at the time. We're not going to have time for that because we have very little time left. So, KF5, JHA, back to our net control, N5BB.
Very good, Chaz. Brenda or Kelly, whichever one is doing the space exploration and space history, please take it away. This is N5BB, Skynet.
This is WB50ZL. Brenda, it is my turn this week for space exploration and space history. In news this week, the James Webb Telescope has captured an unbelievable image of its first supernova, a brilliant light detected by NASA's James Webb Telescope in a galaxy 3 billion light years from Earth is believed to be the $10 billion scope's first observation of a dying star exploding. Formerly known as a supernova, it is the last hurrah that occurs when the star runs out of fuel. This causes the pressure to drop, in which the cosmic object expands to at least 5 times the mass of our sun, which is the size of about 333,000 Earths, then detonates, releasing tons of debris and particles. The stellar explosion occurred in the galaxy a bunch of numbers, where JWST snapped images showing the light of an object get dimmer of a span of 5 days, a clue that sparked the theory of a supernova. What is additionally exciting is the fact that JWST was not designed to find and detect new transients. Mike Engesser of the Space Telescope Science Institute told Inverse that first reported on the discovery. The team used software to analyze the James Webb picture against the same picture snapped by the Hubble in 2011, which is how they identified the small bright light. The galaxy called Glass Z13, or GNZ13, formed just 300 million years after the Big Bang that occurred 13.8 billion years ago. News on Artemis. NASA's ambitious Artemis 1 moon mission is go to return to the pad one last time ahead of launch. The Artemis 1 stack will make the roughly 4-mile journey from Kennedy Space Center's Vehicle Assembly Building to Launch Complex 39B on August 18th. That's really soon. NASA confirmed on Friday, August 5th, the rollout will keep Artemis 1 on track to launch on a weeks-long uncrewed journey across the moon no later than August 29th. Artemis 1 will put the Space Launch System, Mega Rocket, and Orion spacecraft through their paces to ensure reliability ahead of astronauts taking a similar ride a few years from now, some making it all the way to the lunar surface if NASA's plans come to fruition. So we got birthdays. Richard O. Covey, August 1st, 1946, STS-51I, 263861. Joan Higginbotham, August 3rd, 1964, STS-116. Charles D. Gemar, August 4th, 1955, STS-384862. Andrew M. Allen, August 4th, 1955, STS-4662 and 75. Michael J. McCauley, August 4th, 1943, STS-34. Neil Armstrong, August 5th, 1930, Gemini 8 and Apollo 11. Winston E. Scott, August 6th, 1950, STS-72 and 87. And Gregory Temitov, August 6, 1962, STS-124/126, Expedition 17/18, and STS-134. So, this week in space history, August 5th, 1971, the first deep space spacewalk. During Apollo 15's return flight to Earth, Al Warren performed an extravehicular activity, or EVA, or spacewalk, to retrieve film cassettes from cameras on the exterior of the spacecraft. It was the first deep space EVA in history, and as of 2022 remains the one that has taken place farthest from Earth. August 5th, 2020, Curiosity lands. Curiosity is a car-sized Mars rover designed to explore the Gale crater on Mars as part of NASA's Mars Science Laboratory mission. Curiosity was launched from Cape Canaveral on 26 November 2011 and landed at Aeolus Palus inside Gale crater on Mars 5th, August 2012. The Bradbury landing site was less than 2.4 kilometers from the center of the rover's touchdown target after a 560 million kilometer journey. Mission goals include an investigation of the Martian climate and geology, assessment of whether the selected fuel site inside Gale has ever offered environmental conditions favorable for microbial life, and planetary habitability studies in preparation for human exploration. On August 5th, 2013, Curiosity audibly played Happy Birthday to You in honor of the 1 Earth year mark of its Martian landing, the first time for a song to be played on another planet. This is the first time that music was transmitted between two planets. And then on August 5th, 2022, 100,000 robotic lawnmowers were programmed to sing Happy Birthday to Curiosity. Lastly, August 5th, 2011, Juno launched. Juno was launched in 2011 to learn about Jupiter's origins and evolution by probing the planet's dense clouds. It is currently NASA's most distant planetary orbiter. Its goals: understand origin and evolution of Jupiter, look for a solid planetary core, map magnetic field, measure water and ammonia in deep atmosphere, and observe auroras. That's all I got. WB50ZL.
Very good, Brenda. Do we have any late check-ins to Skynet, or does anyone have any questions or comments? This is N5BB, Net Control. Okie dokie, moving along. We're going to skip Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, and we're going to go to Tom. Tom, you got any exciting space launches for this week? K5ICX N5BB.
Well, Bill, yeah, if you're Falcon 9, you've got a lot of things going on. So SpaceX has a lot of missions. We've got early August, Falcon 9, Starlink 3-3 from SLC-4E Vandenberg Space Force Base. We'll launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. First stage will land on a drone ship in the Pacific Ocean. Starlink 4-26, August 9th. This one will be also launched, this time from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center, and will land in the Atlantic Ocean. First stage will. We have also Astrorocket 3.3. This will be for Tropics 3, 4, 5, and 6. These will launch from SLC 46 at Cape Canaveral. The time-resolved observation of precipitation structure and storm intensity for tropics with a constellation of small sats. I forgot the other part. Tropics. The mission will measure environmental and inner core conditions for tropical cyclones. Let's see. In the summer, SSLV will launch from Sriharikota, India. Small satellite launch vehicle, SSLV, will launch its first orbital test flight. Then, to be determined, but coming soon, from Starbase Boca Chica Beach in Texas, SpaceX Super Heavy and Starship launch vehicle will launch on its first orbital test flight. The mission will attempt to travel around the world for nearly one full orbit, resulting in re-entry and splashdown of the Starship near Hawaii. Then, let's see, August 29th, Space Launch System Artemis 1, SLB-39B, Launch Complex 39B at Kennedy Space Center. The heavy lift rocket will launch on its first test with an uncrewed Orion spacecraft. The mission, known as Artemis 1, will place the Orion spacecraft into orbit around the moon before the capsule returns to Earth for splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. 10 small CubeSat rideshare payloads will also launch on the Artemis 1 mission. And finally, for September, I'll just give you one of the big boys from SLC-41, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The United Launch Alliance will launch an Atlas V rocket. They'll launch an SES-20 and 21 communications satellites for SES of Luxembourg. 20 and 21 will provide C-band television and data services over the United States. The rockets will fly in the 531 vehicle configuration with 5-meter fairing, 3 solid rocket boosters, and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. That's it, Phil, from me, KE5ICX.
Well, there we go. This is N5BB sliding through. Brenda, WB50ZL, how about some recent astronomical discoveries? You got something about the Formax Galaxy Cluster, N5BB?
I do, but being as now it's 10:27, it might be a good idea just to table it for next week. I'll be around.
We'll do that then. Tom, any super exciting visible satellite passages over the next couple of days?
Bill, all I've got is the Tiangong Chinese space station. That's August 9th, 10th, 14th, and 15th. Envisat has a couple of passes north to south, August 7th, 8th, 10th, 11th, 13th, and 15th. And you can see all these and look them up over at heavensabove.com. How about that, Bill? KE5ICX.
That's a winner. Does anyone have any really quick astronomical questions before we close the net? This is N5BB, net control for Skynet. Also looking for late check-ins. Last chance. Do we have any last comments before I close the net? This is N5BB, Skynet, net control. Very good. Tonight we had 22 hams participating on the air. Thanks to all of you who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other Dallas imagery.
All my circuits are functioning perfectly.
If you'd like to try your hand, send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter if you really insist, as well as our audio and video streams. Look at w5fc.org and the drapes will be pulled away and you'll be able to see what's really going on. w5fc.org is the font of information. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB, closing a net at 10:30 p.m. Returning a net to normal amateur, the repeater of normal amateur use, although in a few minutes we're going to be talking about a movie. The movie we're going to be talking about is Terror in the Midnight Sun from 1959, a snow fantasy flick. Turn over to you, Tom, in 5BB clear.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. And this is KE5ICX. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes to discuss the film. And if you haven't seen it, that's okay. Just join us anyway. We'll tell you all about it. Back in 5. This is KE5ICX. Okie dokie. I hope everybody had a chance to take a break, come back, and sit down with your favorite beverage and popcorn for another edition of the Afterglow Movie Net. I'm KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom, and I'll be your net control this evening. Yay. So, tonight's movie is called actually it's called Terror in the Midnight Sun. It was also known as Space Invasion of Lapland in Sweden, where it was produced and filmed. And it also came under a U.S. release in 1962, where it was extensively re-edited as Invasion of the Animal People. Yes. And there were various versions of this made with intercuts that were done with other people, such as David Carradine. Okay, here we go. What is it, John Carradine? I don't know. Let me look. John Carradine. He did the narration. I think his David would have been too young then. Okay, here we go. So, wow, this is the plot from the original film. While traveling in Sweden, Olympic skater Diane Wilson meets up with her uncle, famous geologist Dr. Vance Wilson, played by Robert Burton, who has come there to help investigate the recent landing of what appears to be a large meteorite. Diane is courted by her uncle's associate, Dr. Eric Engstrom, played by Sten Gester. Though she aggressively plays hard to get while they're skiing, at one point grabbing his skis and leaving him to walk back all the way to the hotel, a romance slowly begins, and eventually they are interrupted by the news of a large herd of mutilated reindeer in Lapland. Both scientists immediately fly there, far north in the Arctic mountains of Lapland, near the site of the meteorite crash. To the irritation of both scientists, they discover Diane has stowed away aboard their aircraft. When they arrive, the meteorite is actually determined to be a round alien spaceship, and she suddenly realizes just how dangerous a decision she has made. Hairy biped creature with powerful jaws, tusks, and large round feet, under the control of 3 humanoid aliens in the spaceship, comes out of nowhere and begins menacing the scientists and the native Laplanders. The tall beast destroys the scientist's aircraft, killing the soldier guarding it, and begins tearing apart the Laplander houses with his bare hands. As Dr. Engstrom and Diane are trying to ski away to safety, the hairy monster attacks again and is able to capture Diane. She screams and faints. Meanwhile, a search party has been formed, now carrying torches as the night begins to fall. They hear Diane screams and go toward the sound. Dr. Engstrom arrives and watches as the hairy monster carries her off. He hurries towards torch-bearing Laplanders and tries to alert Dr. Wilson, who is with them, that the creature now has Diane, carrying her in its snow-buried alien spaceship. The extraterrestrial monster suddenly begins displaying tenderness towards the captive, a result of mind control exerted over the creature by the humanoid aliens. She rushes into an adjoining ice cave and screams and faints again. When the aliens come near, the aliens leave the cave and see a mass of lighted torches coming their way. The hairy monster picks up Diane and heads away from the buried spaceship. The Laplanders give chase and are finally able to confront the huge creature, who is now standing with its back to the edge of the deep snow cliff. Angry villagers begin throwing their fire torches, and the tall monster carefully places Diane on the ground, where she's able to roll several feet away. More torches are thrown, and the hairy creature catches on fire, falling backward, fully engulfed over the cliff to the fiery death down below. The aliens take off in their spaceship, returning the very way they came. Diane and Eric walk off into the midnight sun together. Just brings tears to your eye. Well, that's the name of this thing, in case you were wondering. It's produced by Bertil Ernberg and his co-partner Gustav Unger. He was under Unger, and Unger was over. Was entrusted to the act as their American agent. After telling Ernberg that Paramount is going to buy it, Unger promptly sold the film to American producer Jerry Warren and kept all the money he received from the transaction for himself. I will mention this is because it's kind of interesting. There was an added prologue. The U.S. cut of the film opens with a narration by John Carradine, informing the audience about scientific knowledge is necessary and a good thing. Scene switches to two doctors discussing this strange case of a patient between Diane Wilson and a third doctor comes into the office holding a skull and proceeds to lecture the other two on how the human ear functions. That's really interesting. Flashback sequence begins by showing the audience Diane Wilson's earlier UFO experience while asleep in her bed. The young woman experienced extraterrestrial visits, awakening to a horrible ear-splitting sound only she can hear. Overcome by confusion, panic, and pain, she runs outside in her nightgown and sees a weird round light in the sky. By the time paramedics arrive and take her to the hospital, she's in a catatonic state and can no longer able to explain what entity she has experienced. Local newspaper headlines wonder if what happened has something to do with the reported UFO sighting in the same area that night. Before this can be determined, she recovers quickly, leaves the hospital, flies to Sweden. At this point, the storyline of the original film begins, but with expository narration by Carradine added over various scenes throughout the rest of the film. How about that? So now you know two different versions of the same film. Okay, with that, let me tell you the rules of the road here. First thing we do is we will take check-ins, and you'll let me know your call sign, your name, and did you see this fine film? If you say no, that's okay. We will then, after we gain check-ins, we'll go ahead and talk about the movie plot. Then the next round, we will talk about the wonderful acting. And then finally, and the third round will probably be a free-for-all, but generally we do talk about special effects, music, sound, picture, you know, that sort of thing. Now that you've heard this, I will now take check-in. If you'd like to join us to discuss the movie Terror in the Midnight Sun, now is your opportunity. Please come now with your call sign, phonetically, your name, and did you see Terror in the Midnight Sun? Let's begin.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw the movie.
W5BLT, yes. Bill, Garland.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto, yes, I saw it.
Kilo 0 Foxtrot Echo Romeo, Chris in Southeast Dallas, yes, I saw it.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jay near Webbard. I've seen most of it, just haven't seen it all the time.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I did see the movie.
Oh, very good. That's a nice round of check-ins. And who have seen the movie? I've got N5BB Bill in Irving. Yep. W5BLT Bill in Garland. Yep. NT5TM Tony Dallas. Yep. WB50ZL Brenda DeSoto. Yep. K0FER Chris Dallas. Yep. KG5BZW Jay near Weatherford. Yep. NB5F Virginia Fort Worth. Yep. She saw the movie. Any additional check-ins? You don't necessarily have to have seen the movie. We'll take you as you are. But if you have seen it, let us know. With your call sign, your name, and did you see the movie?
November Yankee, Allen, and yes, I saw the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sarah Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen the movie.
Saw the movie.
Okay, let's see here. Here we go again. I'm becoming blank on one of the calls. There was a double. I've got NG5Y Allen. Welcome. We got you checked in as a yes. KB9SOK. Sean in Fort Worth. Yep, he saw the movie. And then Cruz. And you got covered over with your call. And you think I would know it by now, but I'm desperately looking for it. But please tell me your call. And yes, I recognize you saw the movie.
Yeah, Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf is Cruz in Arlington.
All right, KI5KWG, Cruz in Arlington. See, I recognize your voice and your name, but I just can't get that call signed out. I don't know why. It's just not working for me. But I'll you know what? I'm just going to put it on a sticky note up here, and I'll eventually learn it. Okay, anyone else before we get started? This is an excellent check-in. Anyone on Echolink? All right, let's get this baby started. We'll go down the list in order. I'll start with Bill, N5BB. Bill, what did you think about the plot for... Here, look at all these different names. Terror in the Midnight Sun.
This is N5BB. That's a Bronx cheer. Stinker as far as plot. I mean, the Terror in the Midnight Sun part of it, the spacecraft that supposedly came in, that part of it, so little of the movie was really around about that. It was about a love affair, all these people out in the snow, the Laplanders, everybody on skis. It was about ice skating. It was about just all those other things. Logistics on getting things out there to the far northern part up there of Sweden. But you didn't learn much at all about the actual subject of the movie. I mean, you saw this monster that wasn't described. You saw these other aliens that you just saw them there. You didn't learn anything about them. You kind of saw their spacecraft, but not very much of it. You didn't know why they were there. You didn't know what their relationship was to that kind of monster creature. And so, to me, it was very unsatisfying. The only reason I guess you get distracted a little bit by all these neat outside shots of all the snow and everything. The Swedish were very proud of that, and the ice skating thing, and all the snowing down the slopes, and all that kind of cool stuff. But the monster was horrible, and there was no plot around the monster or the aliens. I mean, just super minimal. So as far as a science fiction movie, super dud. Like I say, it's not a science fiction movie. It's a snow fantasy movie. Monster in the snow, like mixture of Frankenstein and maybe King Kong, but maybe Frankenstein, he picks up the injured young woman and carries her, but doesn't really hurt her. And they try to shoot at him. They catch him on fire. He falls down. Just clone of Frankenstein. By the way, there was a Frankenstein movie on this evening on MeTV, one of the later ones. And that's all I got. Bad, bad, bad. Interesting music, kind of strings and woodwinds, but in 5BB. Bad movie.
All right, thank you, Bill. We've got one thumbs down. W5BLT, Bill, over in Garland. You saw the film. I bet you thought it was good. Tell us what you thought from KE5ICX.
Well, Tom, I'm sorry to disappoint you. This is the first science fiction movie from that era of the 50s and 60s that I have seen in my lifetime that I did not like. I probably should have listened to your synopsis, or maybe I would have liked the version with the narration. As a totally blind guy, I was totally lost on this. And of course, I didn't read the Wikipedia stuff. I just watched it. Not a lot of dialogue for like the first 4 minutes or 5 minutes. And so I was disappointed. I thought with the title of Terror in the Midnight Sun, it'd be a little like the Twilight Zone Midnight Sun and be really good. But it was not. And that makes 2 thumbs down. W5BLT.
Okay, thank you, Bill. 2 thumbs down. We had 1 thumb down, 2 thumbs down. Now comes Tony, NT5TM. Tony can always find something really good about a film, and I know he has on this one. Tony, what did you think of Terror in the Midnight Sun? Well, I do have to say there was a lot of really good skiing technique demonstrated. You don't see that much good skiing in most modern movies. That said, I have to pass on 2 thumbs down, 1 from Erin as well, because she also thought this had something in common or something to do with that famous and brilliant Twilight Zone episode, one of her top couple favorites, and I showed her a little bit of the skiing, and she was instantly unhappy. The movie did show some Morse code. I was hoping it was going to have a more ham radio-related plot. I was very impressed to see the Morse code at the beginning. That was nice, too. This movie illustrated a couple of important plot points that have appeared in many other movies later. The first is the Hollywood cab payment principle, which I was shocked to see in the Swedish movie, but it did have American actors. Maybe they told the Swedes about this. If you are in a movie or a TV show, and you need to pay for a cab, you can reach into your purse, pocketbook, jacket pocket, wherever it is you keep your money, grab the first bill of currency you see, and its value will automatically cover your fare and tip. It's amazing how people just pay for cabs in movies and TV shows. You grab one thing, and it always works. I wish I could pay for rides that way. That was a 10. Well, now I handed it to you, cab driver. It's a $57 bill. I was really glad that the monster costume looked very warm. The plot often seemed to make very little concession to the conditions. No one seemed to get hypothermia. I didn't see people needing to eat, drink, or carry extra supplies on these long treks through Lapland. I thought there was a second important Hollywood principle. Yes, this movie also discovered the Hollywood principle of things bursting into flame for no apparent reason. The monster creature grabbed a piece of corrugated metal roofing from a fake little model building
and threw it over, I guess, towards a barn or an airplane or some other object, and wherever the corrugated roofing landed, burst into flame immediately. That's a great Hollywood principle that was used many times in many later movies. I guess they invented it here. I am sad they did not get a specimen of the big snow creature for science. And I have many other comments, but I will save them for future rounds, especially rounds 2 and 3. NT5TM.
Well, I do believe that this discussion has sparked some interest as well as a major explosion of the airplane. Now remember, I will tell you this, in Star Trek, was it 4? Star Trek 4, Kirk and Spock get on the bus, and then they have to get off the bus, and Spock asks, what does correct change mean? So they broke the trend. Next is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda always has something good to say about the movies she picks. This can be no exception. So Brenda, tell us about the positive things about this film from KE5ICX.
I did not pick this movie. This is WB5OZL. What, I'm supposed to say something good about it? I liked the poster that showed the girl lying in the snow, and she's got these red pumps. It's just so iconic, the red shoes. And her legs are bare, too. She's got a dress on. And almost every scene where the monster carries off the girl, you just wonder what this interspecies romance is about. What is she planning to do with her? And, you know, I mean, they never get so close as to, you know, a real date. He just carries her off and kind of gently puts her down somewhere. He doesn't ravish her or they don't have dinner. It's just, you know, it's kind of unsatisfying. It's not a real date. And I just don't understand why a monster would find a human attractive, because you'd think he'd want his own kind. But it's such a trope in movies. I can't count how many times we have seen this theme in a movie. And of course the girl is always scantily clad. Or at least she is in the, we see her legs in the poster. This girl at least had some clothes on. I'm surprised they didn't contrive some way to have her less dressed. But she was going around in the snow. These are the most unprepared, stupidest people I've ever seen. They don't carry water, they don't carry food, they don't have maps. Radios would have been nice, walkie-talkies, but maybe that's expecting a lot for the day. Got a lot of good footage of airplanes and lots of good footage of Laplanders. They actually filmed this in northern Sweden, and I assume those are real Laplanders that they used as extras. That they probably didn't pay them much. I wasn't sure why they were leading around these little critters, reindeer. I guess milk on the go or something. Wasn't quite sure about that. But I'm pretty sure those were real people, not just Hollywood actors imported in to be in the movie. The monster was just irascible. Why would he just tear things up all the time? Why was he so angry? And, you know, where'd he come from? They didn't really explain that, what his origin was. And no explanation about the aliens, what they were doing. We got around the language barrier by just having them transmit sounds. so we don't know anything about them. I guess that's nominally what makes it a science fiction movie. We had some so-called aliens and a spaceship in it, but no explanation whatsoever. I wonder about people sitting around in a room discussing this movie, trying to plan out the plot and the scenes and everything. I can't believe they sat there and said, "Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, that's a good idea." You know, they couldn't possibly have been proud of this. And there's no information on whether it actually made money. I rather doubt it, but who knows. All right, I think I'll stop there. This is WV5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Obviously, you enjoyed the movie quite a bit, so we'll come back to you for other comments about the film. Next is K0FER. Chris, what did you think about the plot for Terror in the Midnight Sun from KE5ICX?
There's a plot? So what I got from this is that there's an alleged scientist that's traveling to the Arctic Circle to investigate a weird meteor landing reported by an alleged tribal leader who is clearly faking an alleged tribal language. He then meets an alleged Olympic skier who is completely accident-prone, especially while in the skis that she is allegedly so proficient in. And, yeah, I echo Brenda's thought. Nobody is bloody prepared. If we only had a radio, she exclaims, when there's clearly a radio in the airplane that they are next to. Like, they used it in the very previous scene. And then we come to the monster. Chewbacca allegedly kills some reindeer, breaks a house, breaks a plane. I argue that all of this is in self-defense. After all, Angstrom shot first. Chewbacca manages to set a teepee on fire. How you set a teepee on fire, I don't know. Clearly, I think this is a staged accident to frame Chewbacca. Staged by who? I don't know. Big Trek. I think Chewbacca is trying to protect Diane from the hazardous situations that she finds herself in due to her lack of preparedness. She's clearly underdressed for the Arctic Circle. She takes refuge in a hut that's clearly not built to code and is at high risk of being buried in an avalanche. Lastly, you come to the use of the torch-carrying mob at the very end, and they carry everything, but they carry absolutely nothing for supplies except torches. Go fig. And I think this is meant to evoke sort of Frankenstein vibes, the torch-carrying, pitchfork-carrying mobs. And I think the director is clearly trying to show us that it is, in fact, the humans that are the real monsters. K0FER.
Well, thank you, Chris. Yes, I think those are some very, very good observations. I got more than just a little chuckle out of that. Okay, next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what did you think about the plot for Terror in the Midnight Sun?
KG5BZW. I don't really hate the film or anything. I kind of consider maybe just this summer getting to me, but I'm thinking about, especially mid-50s weather. I think we had some pretty nasty summers back then. I'm just wondering when this was released. And this is just for lack of no one else to call it, I'm just going to call it snowborn. You've got all this winter wonderland and just all this wonderful snow. And if this was like a film that was released during the summer, it just seems like, yeah, we're just going to catch the last of years with all these big views of cold stuff. And I don't know, it kind of worked on me. The alien creature didn't make sense to me, and the alien people that apparently had something to do with the creature made even less sense. There's I don't know what else to say, because I think you've got all this wonderland. You got the cute girl, of course, and whatnot. You love scenes and blah blah blah. But I mean, it had some entertaining moments. It didn't really make sense in the long run, or in a number of short-term things. Tackling the Laplanders' village was kind of strange. But I don't know. I forgot that Laplanders even existed, and I'm kind of glad that this reminded me of them. So, I mean, it has that going for it. The skiing, of course. But, yeah, well, there's not really much. But I don't know. It's I can just imagine watching this at a drive-in in the 50s and just kind of being enamored by it all. That's all I can say. Even though I don't care if it doesn't make sense. I want that winter. KG5BCW.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Yeah, well, the winter part, I think it probably came out, it was part of a double feature, and I bet you it came out in the summertime. It was paired with Warren's Terror of the Blood Hunters, another fine film that I don't think I've ever seen, but you never know. I might have seen it and then promptly forgotten it, or taken a rock and hit it in my head until I could forget about it. That's possible, too. By the way, we have the habit of naming our monsters when they don't have names, so I think Chris's Chewbacca is fine. I think that's a good name. So if you want to refer to the monster as Chewbacca, that works for me. Or if you got another pet name, we'll use it. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, what did you think of the plot for... What's the name of this thing again? I forget. Terror in the Midnight Sun from KE5ICX.
KE5ICX and the net. This is Virginia NV5F. Well, the cool thing about going a little bit later is that you get to kind of comment on what everybody else has said. And I've also got a few of my own things here, and then some people covered some stuff that I already thought of, so I'll just elaborate a little bit, I guess. I noticed in the caption or the title on YouTube, this was referred to as Ski-Fi, and I thought, what does that mean? And almost thought someone had mistyped sci-fi, and then I began watching this, and when I saw those skis, I knew exactly what they were trying to do there. So I thought that was kind of funny. There are some things I liked about this movie. The first thing is kind of like Jay said, just looking at snow this time of year is just kind of, calming and a little comforting. So that it did have that going for it. The other thing it had going for it is that it was blessedly short. It was only about 71 minutes, and if you stop it when the credits begin to roll, which I did because the song was so horrible, it was probably only about 69 minutes. So it had that going for it. I thought the ship landing scene was kind of cool looking. I thought it kind of had a little promise to it. I thought, well, maybe this will be kind of cool. I mean, that's obviously some kind of spacecraft. The Morse code was kind of cool. I was copying the Morse code that was coming in that they were receiving, and then I got disappointed when the guy started sending Morse code and he was just sending random beeps. So I don't know why they didn't try to have him send something, but at least real letters. So I was a little disappointed right off the bat there. I also have to laugh at what Tony said. I also noticed that that things burst into flames when the monster threw something at the airplane. It just burst into flames, and I love when that happens in movies also. And of course, it had a really long, slow setup so that they could show, show the good-looking male and female leads a lot and set up their supposed tension, romantic tension between them, and make her into this kind of plucky troublemaker, I guess. And of course, Brenda mentioned that she's scantily clad on the movie poster, and I think the figure skating was the only way they could get that in. So they had to throw some figure skating in there. And of course, everybody up there is good at skiing, I guess. And the other thing I really liked in this movie, and y'all might laugh at me, I really liked that monster. He did look like Chewbacca. I immediately thought, well, he's kind of like Sasquatch because he's so big. And Sasquatch is kind of lovable, but he really reminded me of a cross between Chewbacca and Beauty and the Beast. So I think Disney and George Lucas both ripped off this movie. But I was, kind of thought the aliens were kind of silly because they were just in that one part, and there was no plot with them whatsoever. They were just, I guess, controlling this monster and sending it out to do their bidding, which I guess their experiment was what happens to humans when we scare them or kill their livestock or kill them or blow up their airplanes or break their buildings. And I think the monster was on a mission that maybe they sent him on with their weird telepathic kind of noise they made. And then I think when he saw the girl, it's the typical trope in all these kind of movies, going way back to Frankenstein, of the beauty of a female, the softness and beauty of a female human is enough to soothe and kind of tame the savageness of this creature and kind of melt his heart a little bit. But by the time that happens, it's too late, and there's already an angry mob chasing him with torches, and I knew he was going to get killed, and believe it or not, I actually was kind of sad and kind of felt sorry for him. So it was one of those movies I could totally hear the Mystery Science Theater 3000 guys in the back of my head, and I could even think of some of the things they would have said, and I wouldn't mind seeing them do this movie. But yeah, it was the plot was super simple, and nobody had food or water, and suddenly the girl's knee just got better after she twisted it so bad, and it was very predictable. But I don't know, I just kind of got a kick out of some parts of it, and the humanoid aliens were just so thrown in there and cheesy, I guess, to give it a more sinister feel and explain the monster's actions a little bit. But anyway, I'm gonna probably quit while I'm ahead. I also did have to mention that I like Tony's, or whoever, Tom said something about Mr. Spock and breaking the cycle of everybody always having exact change when they get on transportation, and Star Trek 4 is one of my favorites. So I'll end with that. So back to net, KE5ICX, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Very, very good comments. I agree with everything you said, and we seem to be building a consensus here about this particular film. It is just trope-filled. All right, next up is NG5Y. That's Alan. And Alan, welcome back. It's been a long time since you've been on this net, but we're glad you're here. You saw the film. What did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Well, on the Facebook page, make one coherent thought out of it. And I think that really does describe this movie. It had lots of cliches from the 50s. It definitely, the plot wandered where you were wondering, is this a science fiction movie or is this an ice skating and skiing movie or what is this? I thought it was pretty hokey about the girl stowawaying on the airplane and they didn't notice until they were almost there. I looked at last week's movie also, and it was just so horrible I couldn't even finish it. So this one was an improvement. At least it had enough charm to it that you could watch it. And that's about all I think about it. NG, back to net.
All right, thank you, Alan. And boy, I've never seen anybody actually go in and do back-to-back assigned movies in one sitting. That's disturbing on so many levels. I can't even begin to tell you. We spread these out over week after week so that then you're not overexposed to the badness of two films and the totality of the hours that you'd be watching it. I would be careful. Adult supervision is recommended. All right, next up is KB9SOK. Sean, I know you've got something to say good about this film, so please do so from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, this film was, well, really, it wasn't a science fiction film. What it was a movie about transportation. Lots and lots of transportation. We started out with some walking, then two scenes with two different cars, and then we moved on to the nice airplane scene of them all traveling to Sweden, which I'm sure, once I saw the airplane, I knew why you picked this movie. And I'm sure you can tell me what model that was. And then we moved on to some ice skating, and then we had some skiing. We had some driving around in a snow vehicle, then some more skiing, and some more walking. Then we had reindeer. Of course, we know they can fly, and why they didn't, I'm not sure. And of course, we don't want to forget about the alien spaceship. So yeah, about pretty much out of the 70 minutes, 50 minutes of this movie was pretty much transportation. And then we had about 10 minutes of talking and 10 minutes of people screaming. So yeah, I think everybody's pretty well called the biggest plot balls. I picked up too on the girl, how she magically got perfectly well. But yeah, we've seen this so many times to where I don't know why an advanced alien race that could travel our planet, why would they bring a monster with them? And we've seen this in many, many films over the years. And I don't know if that's supposed to be their defense or their way of making sure it's safe. But we've seen this many times. In fact, about 3 months ago, I don't remember the name of the movie, but we had another one where they brought a monster with them. So, yeah, I don't get that. This is very big, it seems like, back in the 50s and 60s. And even in the 70s, they had some movies that did that. So, yeah, I don't quite get that. Yeah, very, very, very thin on the whole alien part of it, because they had such a tiny part in it. They spent way too much time on the love story. I know they were trying to build up, why he wanted to go after her, but, it's, yeah, very little science fiction, and that's how they were advertising this thing. Then, but now at least we know what the glowing orbs are over at Skinwalker Ranch on that show. Apparently it's these aliens coming to visit us. So yeah, not a whole lot here. There's a lot of troves. I think it's been pretty well covered. So yeah, by far, I would agree. It's not the worst thing we've seen. It was at least watchable to the end, but yeah, it definitely I was getting really bored with all the travel. Anyway, back to that. KB9 is okay.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean, and we'll be back to you later for plot. Next, KI5KWG, that's cruise. Now, I know, go. I'm very interested to hear what you've got to say from KE5ICX.
KI5KWG, I'll try not to break the net tonight. I think I'm the one that destroyed it last time, or at least I was the one talking. My brother and I have a running joke about a bread song, if y'all old enough to remember bread. Easy listening is what that was called back in the day. And that's our running joke about it, is we'll just start singing with the first line of one of their songs, and it'll make the other crack up. But the deal about easy listening is they're not bad songs, and they even get some popularity, but they're definitely not good. And that kind of seems to fit this movie and how I watched it. Is, you know, like this isn't bad. It's really not bad. It was kind of easy to watch, but so I'll leave it there in kind of almost positive statement for the film in general. My first note I wrote down is this is further evidence that in the 1950s, people did not know what a meteor or meteorite is or what one does. So we see this again and again in movies, and I mean even that wonderful War of the Worlds from, I think that was the 50s, maybe early 60s. Same way as meteorites don't do that. At any rate, I have to agree. I think Chris and Virginia had the same thought I did. I wrote down that it was almost 20 years before we knew that the humanoid aliens were using Jedi mind tricks to control an innocent Wookiee slave to terrorize Earthlings. Let me reset. And so my plot summary was the Jedi get away, but the Wookiee dies and the girl gets boy. So that was my plot summary for this. So several of us had the same idea. One thing that's been brought up by a few is why was the monster monstrous? And if I'm not mistaken, I could go back and look at it, but I won't. But if I'm not mistaken, they shot at him. That's what made him ornery. And I think he was maybe eating their deer, but they shot at him. I don't think he had done much damage until that point. And so, like Virginia, I was kind of like, he was the innocent. He died a horrible death. So that's what I've got on the plot. And KI5, KWG, back to you, Ned.
All right, thank you, Cruz, and I think you're right about the shooting back and all that. I'll make my comments, and then I got to run off and hand it to Bill. But let's see here. I agree. I always wonder why the aliens come to Earth and then they don't seem to have any sort of a plan. I assume that the travel is a long-distance thing, and they got plenty of time to think about it, plus they have to use all these resources to get there, and then they come in looking like a meteorite and crash into the thing. Was that all planned? What was their purpose here? We don't know. And why would they bring this gigantic, monster? Why not bring a smaller monster or a robot or something like that? They seem to be fairly advanced. They did telekinesis. Why didn't telepathy? Why didn't they use telepathy on the humans? Wouldn't that have been an easier thing to do? Then they could have saved all that money on the monster, and they wouldn't have to bring him along anyway. He's 20 feet tall. Where are you going to put him in the spaceship? Didn't look like it was that big. But I don't know. And then why did they hang around looking out the windows that apparently are in the back where the exhaust pipe is? I don't know. That didn't make any sense to me either. It was very odd. Let's see. What else? The airplane DC-6, I believe, is what you saw. SAS Airlines, Scandinavian. So yes, or Sweden. Yes. But yeah. That was everybody. What everybody else said, I agree with, and I felt bad for Chewbacca too when he got killed, because he was just minding his own business until somebody shot at him, and then he got really mad, and then the aliens allowed him to get even madder. So what's up about that? I don't know. All right, let's see here. I tell you what, I'm going to cut up and go back up to Bill. N5BB, go ahead and talk about characterization, please. What did you think about that? And I shall return myself. Go ahead, Bill. N5BB from KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom, this is Inside BB. I'm just going to read down through my notes. I agree, by the way, with things other people have said. The attempt at sending Morse code wasn't Morse code. It was just him playing around with a key. Looking at some other sites, I noticed that there was evidently another scenes were filmed, but they weren't in this version of the movie, that had an extensive section with amateur radio operators at some remote place trying to communicate with some people. So evidently amateur radio, specifically amateur radio, was involved in some other version of this, but we only got that one scene with the fake Morse code. Too bad we didn't get the real one with the amateur radio in it. The only good thing in this movie, there are two things. Number one, the skiing. I don't think that was the actress. Probably some other girl looked similar to her. I mean, the skiing and the ice skating. The ice skating was excellent. That's the only reason we stayed watching the movie. Watching that girl ice skating, that just transfixed us early on. It transfixed the hero guy. But the other thing, did you notice the hats of the Laplanders? They were fantastic. It was the only neat thing in there, the hats of the Laplanders. Did you look at the face of the monster? This is a really ugly, horrible, it could have been done in the fifth graders, class mask. Nobody in elementary school would want to wear a mask like that for Halloween. It looks too fake, too corny. It had tusks, it all kinds of other weird things in it. But the hats of the Laplanders, those were amazing. That and the ice skating, and then the skiing. Those were great. Everything else was horrible. Let's see, what else is in my notes? The music, as everybody said, was that bland, strings with some woodwinds and things, and nothing very exciting. At one point where bad things were happening, there was kind of an ominous sound to the music, but most of it was elevator music. The actress was Barbara Wilson. She played the character Diane Wilson. Okay? She actually sued the producers of the film afterwards because evidently the Swedish end of it released a version of the movie with a bunch of nude scenes from a double of hers. I guess somebody that played a double of hers in the movie, for some of the scenes, her double had some nude scenes in a version released in Sweden. So, she sued them for a significant amount of money. I don't know if she won, but she tried suing them. And she appeared in several other things that Barbara Wilson did. By the way, I don't know if it was her or if it was dubbed, but she had a couple of good screams. I mean, there were some really good monster. Here's the monster scream. Those were pretty good. As other people noticed, suddenly the monster crashes in the hut, and what does she do? She's got an injured leg, badly injured leg. She runs. She doesn't just walk. She runs. Funny. Also, there was a good scene with the walking into the blowing snow. Okay? That was pretty cool. I mean, they really I think it was her. She really looked like she was walking into the blowing snow. I don't know if they filmed that on site or they had a big fan out there, but that was pretty good photography there. That was actually okay. Did you notice? I don't remember any scenes where the monster had a speck of snow on his suit. Not a speck of it. That was the cheapest suit And it must have been made of, some kind of acrylic plastic, and they doused with gasoline to get it to burn. And of course, what happened? He fell off the cliff at the same time. Just like the Frankenstein movies. Let's see, what else? What does the monster do? He just paces around. What is he doing? Who knows? Why? Who knows? He just paces around, terrorizing people randomly. No reason for it at all. The two aliens in the black hoodies, like a lot of these movies, they're indistinguishable from each other. They look like clones of each other. I don't know why. This is why the Star Trek movies and the Star Wars movies were so neat, because the aliens all were different from each other. They had personalities. They were different. They looked different. They were different heights. Maybe they had different numbers of fingers and limbs and things, but not this movie. Clones of each other. It wasn't clear to me that those two aliens were really controlling the monster. It wasn't super clear that the monster came from the spacecraft. Maybe the monster had gotten here some other way. Or maybe it was already on Earth, and they were coming to figure out, to find the monster. Maybe they were coming to take it back or to get rid of it. Who knows? Wasn't clear. That most of these movies, there's some reason that the spacecraft is arriving on Earth. Like to eat humans, to dominate Earth, to be our friends. But there's no reason that spacecraft came to our planet. What else? The torches were obviously, the Laplanders were obviously from the Frankenstein movies, going and chasing him down and burning him. I tell you what, that was cheapo. That's all I got. I guess the protagonist and his girlfriend there, yeah, they played that part okay. The other people were just stock characters. The Laplanders were stock characters. The monster was a stock character. The aliens didn't have any personality at all. So, not much writing was really required. That's all I got in 5BB.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Bill. Next is the other Bill, W5BLT. Bill, what did you think of the characterization?
Well, I'm going to go back and watch this, especially after all the descriptions I'm getting of the movie. I will imagine Chewbacca, and maybe they're on Hoth or something in the snow, and maybe that'll help. I don't recall really hearing the characters' names very much. And of course, it was interesting. I think the one guy was reading a poem or talking about the Midnight Sun, I think, to the Diane. I felt bad for the monster, but everybody else, I didn't feel bad for. I'll go back and maybe rewatch this with all the description I've got, and maybe I can come up with a thumb up for this movie. But it was very interesting. Just not a lot of character development, I thought. That's all I got. W5BLT.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Next is Tony, NT5TM. What did you think of the plot for Terror in the Midnight Sun from GE5ICS? Well, I think we might be in the character round
around, and if we are, I'd like to say I thought the characters were forgettable and pointless, except perhaps for the monster, and perhaps for the aliens, and I don't know, maybe just except for them. A couple of tropes I forgot to comment on was that this movie invented the backup beeper, and perhaps the music video. When the female lead, whose name completely escapes me, was in the crater near the alien spaceship, there were these strange beep, beep, beep noises when she was there. I think the alien spaceship was trying to back up out of the crater. I think this movie may have invented the backup beeper. I also note that each time that they showed one of these strange aliens in their masks, in their hoods, like they're in the Seventh Seal? Yeah, the Seventh Seal. That each one had its own musical note. I kind of wondered if this was going to be like an Oingo Boingo video or something. And my main note for the female lead was, stop screaming, I'm bored, stop screaming. I said, stop screaming, you're screaming again. People in the 50s must have been so different. They must have really appreciated screams as like an art form, like, ooh, ooh, maybe she had a little electric shock there, maybe something on the set got her. No, the screaming didn't work for me. You can't make a character entirely out of screams. It does not function, does not compute. So yeah, characters, what characters? But hey, at least they invented the backup beeper. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. That sounds like probably a Jeopardy, Final Jeopardy question. Beep, beep, beep. Who invented the backup signal? Okay. Let's see. Next, WB5OZL, Miss Brenda. What'd you think about characterization? I know you admire the female character in this. She was something. Tell us more from KE5ICX.
This is WB5OZL. The female lead was so typical of the 50s. I hate to use a word like bimbo, but I just can't think of another word. She screamed too much, and she was in the way, and she wouldn't behave. You know, she just did what she wanted, no matter who it endangered. And she was just annoying. And typical of these things, you've got a male expedition, and there's one woman. There's always just one woman. And she's always somebody's niece or daughter. I guess, honestly, I didn't think her figure skating was all that great. I thought it didn't look like Olympic quality to me. But what do I know? And we don't know if that was her skiing. I'm sure they used stunt skiers throughout this movie. So anyway, a lot of cardboard characters. Our hero, he's a womanizer, but he's well respected in his field. He's handsome. And then you got the old guy, the scientist, the uncle, who is respectable. Just very typical, stereotypical stereotypes. Even a monster was a stereotype. And it carries off a girl, of all things, or he smashes things. And I just never understood the connection between him and the aliens, what that was about. I assumed he was a Yeti. I don't know. He looks like a Yeti. Did they bring him? Where did he come from? He didn't look like the aliens. There's just a lot of... I get the idea that they wanted to make a movie and couldn't figure out what to do with it, so they just started randomly putting in ideas from other movies they had seen without too much thought about whether or not it was going to make sense. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. Next up, K0FER. Chris, what do you think of characterization?
Oh boy, do I have some opinions on this. First, kind of to respond to Sean, which does talk about characterization, why did they bring a monster? Well, I don't think they did. He was just part of their egalitarian crew representing the harmony possible between races. After all, this is a common sci-fi trope. Advanced civilizations looking past a species' hairy skin and pointy orthodontia and recognizing their value as living beings. Han flew with Chewbacca. Picard flew with Worf. So this guy, he was just out for a stroll, exploring strange new worlds, seeking out new life and new civilizations. He was boldly going where no Wookiee has gone before. Diane, last week we did have a woman who wasn't an Eastern daughter. She was a stowaway reporter, so it's not always that way. But yes, the character of Diane. Man, when I first saw her, I asked, why is this woman nearly naked when everyone else is so clearly bundled up? And the next scene kind of immediately answered that. It's like, there's a man. So Diane has to be thirsty. And this point is further driven home when they are in the rescue hut and she disrobes, and something the cinematographer is sure to emphasize by her striking fire-lit silhouette. They needed to make her respectable, like an Olympian, yet vulnerable, like a crappy Olympian. And this low-effort 50s sexism is just so strong in this movie. It's something that kind of bugged me, and is just a passing thing, but the tribal elder that was reporting the whole issue was clearly faking a language. Like, it's so casual that I'm surprised that the Swedish Tourism Board was cool with that. Like, I was reminded of the Team America World Police stuff with, like, Durka Durka, Mom, God. It's like, this is not cool. But, you know, modernized, looking back at 1950s. Then we come to the scientists. When they discovered that the meteor wasn't really a meteor, there was this glowing metal orb with portholes that glowed. Henrik or Bottinger, I'm not sure which one it was, is the one that died. He was clearly looking at this meteor, not a meteor thing, and Dr. Angstrom says, like, it's clearly not of this world. Are you sure? Like, scientists would ask that. And yes, as Tony pointed out, the alien cameos were super weird. To me, they looked like the cone heads and black hoods. I was expecting them to ask Diane to maintain low tones when she screams. And did they even get 90 seconds of screen time? I know that they didn't have any lines, but must they have had some sort of narrative relevance? I mean, the director intentionally spent expensive celluloid on their screen time. So, I don't know, all these characters and their... I mean, it's so bad that you have to wonder, like, are these blunders, or were they intentional in order to kind of emphasize the monstrosity of man, kind of tired trope. Anyway, those are my thoughts on characterization. K0FER.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. Interesting. KG5BZWJ, your thoughts on characterization?
This is KG5BZW. I was really struggling trying to figure out what to say during this segment because, yeah, there's not, I mean, I don't know. We did get, I'd be interested in the lap, or the Sami people, I should say. It seems like they are named on Wikipedia. Bill comment on their hats. Those hats are wonderful. But otherwise, I mean, I'm going to have to be like everybody else and comment on something else, but it just, underclothed, it seemed, skiers, like I said before, the whole point of the film not even being anything related to people. I mean, I guess you could come in on a reindeer, but they weren't even really that prominent. Other than the field of dead reindeer, that was kind of honestly surprisingly gruesome looking for today. That was actually I kind of wanted to see it again just for the sheer morbidity of it, but not that I have anything against reindeer or anything. That actually kind of shocked me for that they tend to be so much. I don't know. Of course, there's the warehouses and whatnot, but lots. That was some pretty decent roadkill critters. So I don't know how does that fit under Chris. I'm skipping through the third section because I doubt we'll have the third one. And I do agree that the spaceship coming in was actually kind of cool. Somebody else said. Other than that, I don't know what else to say here. So headed back to net control. Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray. This is K25 PZW. Back to net.
Thank you, Jay. And next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, what do you think about characterization for Terror in the Midnight Sun? KE5ICX.
KE5ICX in the net. This is NV5F. Well, when you have these movies that are so bad, by the time you get to the middle of the character part, it's kind of fun to be later in the list on the plot part, but when you're later in the list on the character part, and these kind of movies tend to have kind of flat characters, it's kind of, everybody's kind of run out of stuff to say. I don't like to openly disagree with anybody specifically, but I didn't really think the main character was a bimbo per se. She was a token, good-looking woman, which you have to have in these movies. You can't have more than one because the beauty that soothes the savage beast has to stand out in the crowd of, torch-wielding Laplanders and old guys and scientists and dudes who fly airplanes and soldiers and so you can't really have any more than one young, attractive character, and of course there has to be this is the kind of the predecessor to the classic, horror movie, where the young lady makes herself vulnerable by getting into her pajamas or disrobing or having nothing but a blanket around her, and then of course that's when she's put into danger. The guy decides to leave, or she's somehow by herself. I mean, there's pretty standard things there, but the setup was long, so they tried to make this kind of believable relationship between her and the and the male lead. I'm not good at remembering names in these kind of movies. They tried to set up a realistic tension between them. And of course that ate up a lot of the movie, but they were probably just padding it because if they hadn't, it would have been too short to really be a movie. I guess that's why it was part of a double feature. So I mean, I found that pretty predictable, and all the characters were fairly predictable. I am kind of leaning more and more towards the theory that maybe the monster was like maybe he was a kind of a monster like a Sasquatch or a Yeti or something, and maybe he had always been kind of docile, and then these aliens came and turned him against mankind or something to do their bidding. I'm not sure. I agree with Bill and others. The Laplanders were cool. I think they were authentic. I think they were, probably happy to cooperate, get to be in a movie, and because I mean, movies were kind of a nifty new thing back then. And it was before everybody had TV and had been overstimulated with too much entertainment, and there was an aspect of them that was very authentic. I think that they, they were pretty authentically portrayed, and I know their language sounds kind of funny, but I would take issue and say that I don't know much about Laplander dialogue, and dialect, but I think that sounded real to me. It sounded like it really was their language. So I thought they were pretty cool. I liked the monster the best. He was my favorite. There was at least an attempt to make him kind of likable and to make him seem kind of docile and misunderstood when he wasn't being shot at or yelled at or screamed at. Movies from the 50s with monsters with the vulnerable female lead had to have lots of screaming. That was just pretty normal. It was very feminine to faint and scream when you were scared, I guess. And I think my favorite take on that, or one of my favorites, is if anybody here likes Star Trek Voyager and the whole revisited thing they did of Captain Proton and his I guess she's his secretary, Constance Goodhart, and she's a good screamer. So, I like all those spoofs on the 50s science fiction and monster stuff. So the aliens, I almost feel like they might have just been thrown in. It almost looks like they were after the fact. Even they didn't really have any share the screen with anybody, I don't think, in the film. So it might have been something that they threw in to go, well, why is this monster behaving like this? And I almost wonder if the theories that the monster was native to that area and nobody knew about him until these aliens hijacked him and basically turned him into a weapon of death and destruction. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. There's not a whole lot to say. Pretty simple plot, pretty simple characters. Pretty stereotypical personalities and actions by everybody, including the monster, even though he was my favorite. His end was very sad. Anyway, I'll turn it back over to Net, KE5ICX. This is NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia, and thank you for giving support for Chewbacca. He needed it, and some sympathy and empathy from the rest of us. It just a little would make the scene with the death of the monster maybe more understandable. Okay, Alan, NG5Y. Alan, what did you think of characterization on this fine film?
Well, as the others have commented, I really like the hat. I thought everyone else was pretty much so typecast, and that's not really the right word, but cookie cutter type characters. As they said, they had to have the one beautiful woman so that she would stand out and be above all the other people out there. I had not considered previously that the aliens did not bring the Yeti or Chewbacca with him, that he might have already been there and they were just somehow controlling him. But that's about it, and I'm going to secure for the night. I do enjoy the net, and back to you, NG5Y.
Very good. Thank you, Alan. Thanks for your participation this evening, and I'm going to be opening it up to other discussions as we get to the bottom of the list here. KB9SOK, Sean. What did you think about the characterization?
Yeah, it's KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with very well what everybody says, and yes, I guess, yeah, I got tired of screaming too. That was on my list of things to mention too. After the first couple times, like, okay, that's enough of that. And I'm not sure, all these characters were, like everybody said, just pretty classic characters this time. You always in these movies have, a couple old scientists. Then you always got the young, good-looking guy always, and then of course the girl. And I don't know why back in the 50s why they thought that women just scream and faint all the time. I've never met a woman that just faints constantly every time she gets scared. I don't know if she had a sugar issue or what, but that seemed a little little weird. But we've seen this time and time again in all these old movies, and I don't know what that is about. But it's I guess because the 50s was a little before my time. Not much, a little. Maybe they did. Yeah, nothing really special here. Just, your standard characters for this type of movie. Nothing really stood out. I agree, the monster was probably the most interesting of all the characters. Chris, thanks for the explanation of why he was there. He was there to be just a beast. He was there as part of the crew. Okay, I can buy that. Why not? Or was he hiding in the snowdrift and the spaceship, knocked him out? I don't know. Anyway, not a lot. Looking forward to the next one. Back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what'd you think of characterization?
KI5KWG. Sitting here mulling this over, listening to y'all, and thinking about some of the things that are being said. And one of them, nagging, is about, that brought up several times, is this beautiful girl has a leg injury, but in the next scene she's running. Doesn't seem to bother her anymore. She can do anything. And it does kind of look like a plot hole, but maybe we're supposed to pay attention to this. So, terror in the midnight sun, the closing scene. Maybe the real predator, the real monster, is walking off into that midnight sun with her prey. So, just an idea that the beautiful girl, scantily dressed when we first met her, she expresses her predatorial interest in the boy to her uncle in the first few minutes, fakes a leg injury to compromise him in that situation. I think we know who the monster was. That's all I've got. KI5KWG.
You've just reinterpreted this whole film, and you didn't need John Carradine to do it. That is brilliant. Brilliant, I tell you. All right, my comments. I've got nothing else to say about any of the characters except for the girl in the sports car at the very beginning. What is it, Dr. What was his name? Dr. Was it Wilson? I can't remember. Whoever the guy was in the white suit at the very beginning who went on the expedition, of course. He was fooling around with her, apparently. What happened to her? She got dumped, I guess, when it's all said and done. So I don't know. But at any rate, who's to say? Nothing really to say about the characterization because really I didn't care about them that much. They drank a lot. That was good. They seemed to have a lot of fun when they were at that nice little restaurant place that they were at. They're doing really well for the middle of nowhere, but who knows? All right, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to go ahead and take, if you have additional comments on anything on the movie, just come with your call sign and I'll go down the list since we're an hour and a half in. So please come now with your call if you've got additional comments. This can be anything. If you want to talk about the special effects or music or something you missed along the way, no holds barred, anything you want. So please come with your call now.
K0FER.
It's 5BB.
NV5F.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Okay, I got 4. I got K0FER, N5BB, NV5F, and NT5TM. So we'll start at the top. Chris, your comments. Go ahead.
Thank you. The one thing that I enjoyed about this movie was the music. From the very get-go, I thought, okay, this is kind of a pretty cool theme. It's melodic. It's using a lot of the high interval leaps that are kind of that would become the trope of sci-fi music in the 60s. And so I looked it up. It's composed by Harry Arnold. He was a jazz band leader and orchestrator. He worked with Quincy Jones briefly before Quincy got big in the 60s. But mainly I like this music because it's not bad and it fills a lot of the dead space, like the ski flirting scene and the plane scene where they're getting pictures of the valley, and of course the jazz club scene. I looked at a picture of Harry Arnold, and I'm pretty sure that he's the xylophonist in that jazz scene. Not 100% sure, of course, because it's not credited, but they look awfully a lot alike. So I thought it was quality music, mostly. I mean, some of the sections where it was just a clarinet playing incidental stuff was kind of blasé, but all in all, I really enjoyed the music of this, K0FER.
All right, very interesting. Yeah, that's fairly common in movies. You'll find the composer sometimes will show up in the film, or that's more common than you might think. So interesting, so that you picked up on it. Bill, N5BB, go ahead with your comments.
Yes, this is N5BB. I have a question. You know, the aliens, the tall aliens, I guess reasonably tall, in those black hoodies, did they move? Or were they just standing there? In my mind, I remember this view of her looking up at them, and what I'm wondering was, were they even actors? I wonder if they were just some mannequins. Did people remember if did they move? Did they show them having any facial expressions or moving, or were they just like mannequins sitting there completely frozen? Because that's all I remember in my poor little brain. But obviously, I want to forget as much about this movie as possible. N5BB, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Probably truer words are never spoken. I want to try and forget this movie immediately. All right. Next, NV5F, Virginia, your parting comments tonight.
Okay, KE5ICX in the net. This is NV5F. Yeah, there was a scene. This may sound wacky. There was a couple scenes. I think it was one of the first scenes with the monster kind of walking towards the camera, and they looked like they were making a real effort to like show his feet, like, you know, in the snow, and it almost looked in a couple of shots like whenever he lifted up his feet, like there was this sort of luminosity that was like coming out from under his feet, and then he was going towards the kind of crater where the spaceship had landed, and there was this kind of luminous, like, sort of aura coming kind of around him or beside him or something, and I don't know if that was done on purpose or if it was just some weird trick of the film, but I almost felt like they were trying to make him into this sort of gentle, you know, like, almost like he was enslaved by those aliens, whether he was with them in the ship or whether they found him on Earth. I don't know. He just seemed like he was supposed to be this sort of Frankenstein kind of pure soul sort of thing. Anyway, if anybody dares to go back and watch that section again, look for that. I thought it was kind of odd and interesting, and I just wanted to mention it as my parting shot. Hope everybody has a good evening and a good rest of your weekend. KE5ICX, Internet, ND5F.
Very good. Thank you, Virginia. Thanks for being part of the net this evening. Appreciate it very much. Next up, NT5TM. Tony, your parting comments, sir.
Oddly enough, after watching this movie, I found myself re-watching part of an older Afterglow movie, The 27th Day, where aliens gave us these little capsules of doom we could use to destroy or save the world, little pill-sized atomic bombs or saving devices. They could be used for many things. And I was just really struck by how well photographed and exposed it was. Believe it or not, something we forget when we watch so many of these really horrible, cheap movies, it's possible to expose black and white film properly, where you can see people and they're not all black blurs. I was especially frustrated because, the Laplanders with their torchlight parade, I mean, they were a mob going to kill the monster, right? A mob with like 25 people in it? Yeah, a mob. I honestly thought that looked like a pretty fun torchlight parade, and I just wished it had been photographed better. So I just want to stick up for black and white film. It can be exposed properly. It's just these cheap movies always make it look horrible with everybody in silhouette, things blown out. You can't see what's happening. NT5TM.
All right, very good. Thank you, Tony. Well, I can't tell you for sure, and things happen, especially when these older movies, a lot of times the prints are 16 millimeter. They're transferred from a 35 print, theater print to 16 millimeter that would be used in local television stations and then broadcast over air that way. And sometimes those transfers were very poor, and since this is not an A-list movie, it's possible. And sometimes they would make copies of the copies, so they would get really bad really quick. I don't know if that's what happened here, but that is not unusual, so that's kind of my thought. All right, any other final comments? Please come with your call now. All right, well, this is what we have for next week. We're going to continue our 1950s exploration of science fiction films. We're going from C to sci-fi. Next week's movie is from 1952 called Invasion USA. Invasion USA. We'll send out the links tomorrow morning sometime. If you want to be a part of this, and if you're listening and want to participate in the movie and you want to know where the links are, just send an email to me, KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, at yahoo.com, and I'll add you to the list with everyone else. Another way of finding out what the movies are is under the Afterglow movie tag inside of Facebook. That's Afterglow Afterglow, which is one word, and movie, Afterglow movie. And then I've moved it over to the guides. If you go to guides, you'll see what the next movies will be. I had to change it out a little bit. There was a document in there that we used to be able to put the links into. I always make sure that it's in whatever is posted, but if you want to see what coming movies are, just go to the guide and you can just scroll down and see which movies are coming up next. So next week's movie is Invasion USA from 1952. I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Thank you for all the participation. This was another great week. How many people? 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 people. That's not bad for 10:30 to midnight. See you all next time. This is KE5ICX. Clear.